You know someone who prefers being alone. Maybe it is a coworker who eats lunch by themselves. Maybe it is a friend who declines most invitations. Maybe it is a family member who spends their weekends at home. Maybe it is you. And most people misjudge this person completely. They think the person is lonely. They think the person is depressed. They think the person is antisocial. They think the person is broken. They think the person needs help. They think the person should be forced to socialize more. They think the person is missing out on life. But they are wrong, and their wrongness says something very dark about the people making the judgment. The first thing you need to understand about people who prefer being alone is that they have a different nervous system than people who need constant stimulation. Some people are wired to seek external stimulation. Their nervous system is understimulated at rest, so they need other people. They need noise. They need activity. They need constant input from the outside world to feel okay. People who prefer being alone have the opposite wiring. Their nervous system is already adequately stimulated at rest, so external stimulation is not a need. It is often an overload. Being around people is overstimulating. Being in social situations is exhausting. Being alone is where they feel balanced. This is not a flaw. This is not something that needs to be fixed. This is just how their nervous system works. But most people do not understand this. Most people think that everyone should be like them. Most people think that if you do not need constant social stimulation, something is wrong with you. Here is the part nobody tells you. People who prefer being alone often have higher IQs than people who need constant social interaction. People who prefer being alone often have richer inner lives. People who prefer being alone often have deeper thoughts and more interesting ideas. People who prefer being alone are often the people doing the most important thinking and creating work. But most people do not value this. Most people think that being social is the highest good. Most people think that spending time alone is a sign of depression or loneliness. Most people think that the more time you spend with other people, the better your life is. But this is backwards. This is a value judgment that most people inherited from a culture that values extroversion. It is not actually true. It is just what people have decided is true. The second thing you need to understand is that people who prefer being alone are often running from something, but not what most people think. Most people think that people who prefer being alone are running from other people, that they are avoiding connection because they are afraid of intimacy or rejection or vulnerability. But that is not usually what is happening. What is actually happening is that people who prefer being alone are running from the inauthenticity of most human interaction. They are running from small talk. They are running from the performance of social politeness. They are running from the constant pretending that most people do in social situations. When you are in a room with other people, most of that interaction is not real. People are performing. People are managing their image. People are saying things they do not actually believe. People are pretending to be interested in things they are not interested in. People are holding back their real thoughts and real feelings. And people who prefer being alone find this exhausting. They find it inauthentic. They find it pointless. So they opt out. Not because they cannot handle connection, but because most of what passeth for connection in social situations is not actually connection. It is just performance. This is why people who prefer being alone often have very few close friendships. But those friendships are deep. Those friendships are real. Those friendships are people who do not require performance. Those friendships are people who they can actually be themselves with. The third thing you need to understand is that people who prefer being alone have learned something that most people never learn. They have learned that they are enough on their own. They do not need other people to validate their existence. They do not need other people to make them feel okay. They do not need other people to give their life meaning. This is incredibly rare. Most people spend their entire lives seeking validation from other people. Most people make their happiness dependent on other people. Most people use relationships as a way to avoid being alone with themselves. But people who prefer being alone have learned that being alone with themselves is not something to fear. It is something to value. It is actually where the good stuff happens. It is actually where they think deeply. It is actually where they create. It is actually where they heal. And this triggers people. because it implies that if they were comfortable alone with themselves, they would not need to be around other people all the time. It implies that their constant need for social interaction is a sign of something broken, not something good. It implies that they are running from themselves by constantly seeking other people. Here is the part nobody tells you. The people who are most uncomfortable with silence and solitude are often the people who are most uncomfortable with themselves. The people who need constant social stimulation are often the people who are avoiding their own thoughts. The people who cannot stand to be alone are often the people who are running from something internal. The fourth thing you need to understand is that people who prefer being alone have often been hurt by people. Not just normal hurt, but deep hurt, betrayal, abandonment, rejection. The kind of hurt that teaches you that other people are not safe. The kind of hurt that teaches you that letting people close is dangerous. And instead of staying broken, instead of repeating the pattern, instead of trying to fix this by getting into another relationship, these people have done something different. They have decided that they are safer alone. They have decided that protecting themselves is more important than risking connection. They have decided that solitude is better than the pain that comes with people. This is not depression. This is not antisocial personality disorder. This is actually a rational response to irrational levels of hurt. This is actually wisdom. This is actually someone who has learned that they are worth protecting. And most people misjudge this completely. Most people see someone who prefers being alone and they think, this person is broken. This person is lonely. This person needs help. But what is actually happening is that this person has made a calculated decision that solitude is safer than connection. And until the right person comes along, the right relationship presents itself, the right circumstances change, they are going to stick with that decision. The fifth thing you need to understand is that people who prefer being alone are often the most deeply intuitive people. They are often the people who notice things that other people miss. They are often the people who see through bullshit. They are often the people who can read people and situations with eerie accuracy. And this is partly because they have spent so much time observing people from a distance. They have watched human behavior without being caught up in it. They have seen the patterns. They have seen the games people play. They have seen the masks. And because of this, they have often become very discerning about who they spend time with. They do not waste time on people who are not worth their time. They do not pretend to be interested in people they are not interested in. They do not perform for people who do not deserve their performance. They are selective, and people who are not selected interpret this as rejection. But it is not rejection, it is just selectivity. It is just someone who knows what they want and does not want to waste their limited social energy on things that do not serve them. The sixth thing you need to understand is that people who prefer being alone often have a different value system than people who are constantly seeking social connection. They do not value being liked by many people. They value being truly known by a few people. They do not value popularity. They value authenticity. They do not value being busy and social. They value depth and meaning. And this is fundamentally at odds with how most of society is structured. Most of society rewards being social. Most of society rewards being liked by many people. Most of society punishes introversion and solitude and depth. So people who prefer being alone are swimming upstream. They are refusing to play the game. They are refusing to be what society wants them to be. And most people punish them for this. Most people make them feel bad about themselves. Most people try to force them to be more social. But these people have made a choice. And it is a choice that most people do not have the courage to make. It is a choice to be true to themselves instead of being true to what society wants them to be. It is a choice to value authenticity over acceptance. It is a choice to be alone rather than be fake. Here is where most people get uncomfortable. This is not about introversion versus extroversion. This is about something much darker. This is about the fact that most people are terrified of being alone with themselves. This is about the fact that most people would rather be in bad company than be in no company. This is about the fact that most people use other people as a way to escape from themselves. And when they encounter someone who does not need this escape, someone who is actually comfortable being alone, someone who does not need other people to feel okay, They feel judged. They feel like that person is saying, "You are broken. You are too dependent. You should not need other people this much." And most people do not want to hear that. Most people want to believe that their constant need for social interaction is normal and healthy and good. Most people want to believe that they are just more social than other people. Most people want to believe that there is nothing wrong with them. But there might be. There might be something worth examining. There might be a reason you cannot stand to be alone with yourself. There might be a reason you need constant external stimulation. There might be a reason you are terrified of silence and solitude. So what is the dark psychology here? What is really happening when people misjudge people who prefer being alone? What is happening is that people are projecting their own brokenness onto other people. What is happening is that people are seeing in others what they refuse to see in themselves. What is happening is that people are making judgments based on their own fears and insecurities. People who are uncomfortable with themselves are uncomfortable with other people who are comfortable with themselves. People who are dependent on others for validation are threatened by people who do not need validation. People who are running from themselves are triggered by people who are running toward themselves. And so they attack, they judge. They try to convince the person who prefers being alone that something is wrong with them. They try to force them into social situations. They try to make them feel bad for being alone. They try to convince them that they are depressed or lonely or broken. But what is actually happening is that the judging person is revealing something about themselves. They are revealing that they are uncomfortable with solitude. They are revealing that they need other people more than they should. They are revealing that they are running from something internal. Most people who prefer being alone understand this. Most people who prefer being alone have learned to let other people make their judgments. Most people who prefer being alone know that the judgment says more about the judging person than it says about them. But some people internalize the judgment. Some people start to believe that something is wrong with them. Some people start to doubt whether their preference for solitude is actually healthy. Some people start to try to be more social to prove that they are not broken. And this is sad, because what they are actually doing is betraying themselves. They are choosing to be inauthentic. They are choosing to perform. They are choosing to spend time in ways that drain them instead of fill them. They are choosing to be what other people want them to be instead of what they actually are. So here is what you need to know. If you prefer being alone, there is probably nothing wrong with you. Your nervous system just works differently. Your need for solitude is valid. Your preference for depth over breadth in relationships is valid. Your choice to be selective about who you spend time with is valid. Most people will misjudge you. Most people will think you are depressed or lonely or antisocial. Most people will try to get you to be more social. Most people will make you feel bad for being alone. But you know something that they do not know. You know that being alone is not the same as being lonely. You know that solitude can be healing. You know that not everyone deserves access to your time and energy. You know that your internal world is rich and meaningful. You know that you are enough on your own. And that is something that most people will never know. Most people will spend their entire lives seeking external validation. Most people will spend their entire lives being dependent on other people. Most people will spend their entire lives running from themselves. But you do not have to. You can choose to be alone. You can choose to be true to yourself. You can choose to value authenticity over acceptance. You can choose to be uncomfortable rather than inauthentic. And that choice, that fundamental choice to be true to yourself, is what most people will misjudge. But it is also what most people should have the courage to make.